translation, O best among the Brahmanas, those who are spiritual masters, are very kind to the needy. They are always kind to their followers, disciples, and sons. And without being asked by them, the spiritual master describes all that is knowledge. Purport: there are many subjects to be known from the bona fide spiritual master. The followers, disciples, and sons are all on one level for the bona fide spiritual master, and he is always kind to them and always speaks to them on transcendental subjects, even though he is not asked by them. That is the nature of the bona fide spiritual master. Vidura appealed to Maitreya Muni to speak on subjects which he might not have asked. Anuvratanam sishranam putranam jadidottama anapristam api pruyur guravo dinavatsalaha. O best among the Brahmanas, those who are spiritual masters are very kind to the needy. They are always kind to their followers, disciples, and sons, and without being asked by them, the spiritual master describes all that is knowledge. Om Jnana Dasha Kinandana Shalakya Chaksun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langai Tigrim Yat Kripa Tarahang Vande Sri Gurum Dina Tarinam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Śrīmad-Bhakti Swami Namni Namaste Saraswati Devam Gaudavanu Prachaini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyachadi Satayane Vanja Kalpatarupyas Cha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Nun Maha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So I guess one can always do like that if one finds oneself in a situation, in a lecture, and then after the lecture, and then the lecture says, any questions? And everyone just blank. I don't know what to ask like that. I guess then one could always ask this question here, kindly, even though we're not able to ask any questions, but could you kindly simply tell us what you think that we should know? Then why not? Might get some interesting answers. So this verse, of course, talks about the topic between guru and disciple, and the disciple's qualification here we see perfectly in Vidura. Of course, again, as I said before, he's much more than a disciple, but as a great devotee, pure devotee, he's always in a very humble position and is always inquisitive to know. Always puts him in this situation where I don't know. Although obviously he knows everything, all the questions that he is asking, he is completely capable of answering themselves. And so it's not that he's not inquiring into some topics that he's not familiar with or like that. So but still he inquires, and we have already in many of these lectures also talked about why is he inquiring, and one reason that he's inquiring has been mentioned, that he simply wants to hear the topics about Krishna and to invoke Krishna's presence. Krishna is always present, but we don't think we're not aware of it. So therefore we ask questions so we can have some talks about Krishna. And then we can experience, really, associate with Krishna, who's already here amongst us. But he manifests himself when there are discussions amongst devotees, and also that Vidura's questions are obviously very acute. They take place just after Krishna has left this world. So this is actually the real context. It's not only someone inquiring from, just like, soberly inquiring from a very, very learned person, learned spiritual master. The situation. Both of them have been thrown into agreement by the disappearance of Lord Krishna. Maitreya must be very affected because he was the last person, along with Uddhava, who saw Krishna. So he was with him at the last moments, and then he disappeared. So Vidura also had so much association with Krishna, and Krishna was naturally the person who filled up his whole life and thoughts for many, many years. And so, it is a very acute situation. Then it's like, we have experienced ourselves when someone suddenly dies, and how much suddenly they are there in one's consciousness, how one is, they were there before, but one was kind of taking them for granted and didn't like that. But suddenly, now he's dead. Oh my, he's dead. And then you even though he's dead, he's more alive than before in one's mind. Experiences like that. So how much they must have had that feeling when Krishna disappeared. That is the context. And Vidura is asking questions. And it's interesting that he's asking the kind of questions he's asking. We've also been talking about that point. Because you would expect that he would ask Maitreya to repeat the same instructions that Krishna he gave to Uddhava. This was actually why he was sent to Maitreya by Uddhava to hear, because Vidura asked Uddhava before, so please, can you tell me what did Krishna instruct you in, what was the last instructions? Can you share them with me? And Uddhava, he said, you better go and hear them from Maitreya. He's there. He's older than me, and he's my senior. I should not be instructing when there's a senior person around like that. And he was there. You go and ask him, and this is why Vidura is now together with Maitreya. So we would have expected that he simply asked, what did Lord Krishna speak? What was the last instructions he gave to Uddhava? And you who were overhearing that. But he doesn't. He doesn't ask about that. He also doesn't ask about Krishna's pastimes when he was here. Please narrate Krishna's pastimes when he was here, or please let me hear what goes on in the spiritual world. The very advanced topics, so-called very advanced topics. About Krishna and all his exchanges with his most confidential devotees and like that. Vidura doesn't ask, let me hear about that. Although he's aware of them. It's not that he doesn't. Everyone back then, they were aware of Krishna's childhood and how his upbringing in Vrindavan and all the pastimes that took place there. They're not unknown. It's something that all the devotees, they were talking about. And Krishna's later on killing Kamsa and establishing Dvaraka and killing so many demons and marrying thousands of queens, and there's so many things that Vidura could have asked Maitreya about in relation to Krishna's direct activities that had just taken place, but he doesn't ask about that. He asks about the creation. He asked about how the creation of about Krishna's expansions and how he's creating this world, and and how the elements are being manifested, and the free motor material nature, how they're working, and the manifestation of all the living beings from Brahma and down through all the demigods and human beings and animals. And this is what he's asking about. So one might wonder, why is that? Well, because he really wants to invoke Krishna's presence. And this is, we are in this particular part of the Lord's creation. It's the Lord, there's nothing but the Lord's creation, or the Lord's energy. And you can say, in one sense, there's no separate material world that exists separate from Krishna's existence. So it is, and everything from Krishna is spiritual. So this is also the spiritual. We are in the spiritual world, but we're not experiencing it, and that's a particular quality of this part of the Lord's creation, that one cannot experience Lord's existence. I mean, one can with pure devotion and with the right technique. And we see this technique being demonstrated by Vidura. He wants to understand how the Lord is present here, so he can see it and experience it. That's why he's asking these questions. He wants to experience how Krishna is still present. Krishna has left, seemingly, but then again, he's not left. He's always here. We're always with Krishna. Separation is not possible between us and Krishna. That was also Krishna's instruction when Uddhava was sent to Vrindavan to pacify all the inhabitants there. And Krishna, he had written a letter to all the cowherd girls, and the first thing he writes about is that please understand that separation is not possible between us, because I'm all-pervading. I'm present everywhere. We cannot be separated. That's his first instruction. And Vidura, similarly, he's asking questions, so he actually can experience Krishna's, that he's still present, as much as always. That's why he wants to understand how all the creative process and like that. Not that he doesn't know, but he wants to really feel and experience how Krishna is present here. And therefore, that kind of questions, actually, they first of all are not inferior. The activities of the Lord in this world here, everything that the Lord does is absolute. So the activities he's performing in this world in terms of creating, maintaining, and destroying this world are not inferior to all the other activities that he is performing. It's all absolute. And secondly, they are more relevant to us because we're here. We are here, and therefore that's why this is a part of the activities of the Lord. We need to really understand and discuss and be conscious of, so we can experience the Lord's presence all the time and always be fully Krishna conscious. And it works like that. It is very. When you start reading these descriptions, one becomes very, very conscious how everything we see is simply the Lord and the Lord's energy acting. And we are in the middle of the Lord's pastimes of creating, maintaining, and destroying this world, and the pastimes of bringing souls closer to Him, bringing souls back home, back to God all the time. Very confidential activity, actually. It is of the pastimes of the Lord. The Lord, that is, that's a real confidential activity, and those who are serving that purpose of bringing other souls closer to Krishna, they are the most confidential devotees. We know that is the very mood of the most confidential devotees. They're not interested in their own happiness. They're not interested in themselves enjoying with Krishna. They just want to bring others. You come, you be with Krishna, and when they see others being with Krishna, feel happy. Oh, such and such devotee of Krishna, she's with Krishna now, and feels very happy. They're not jealous. They're happy. The happiness is to bring others closer to Krishna. So it is a very confidential pastime and activity that's taking place in this world, bringing others closer to Krishna. Preaching, therefore, is, Krishna says, there's no one who is more dear to me than he who is preaching this message. And this is what is really relevant for us to understand the Lord's presence in this world and the Lord's purpose right here. And he has a very big purpose for this material world. So that's one point. This is why Vidura is asking these questions. That's one motive. But also we see just the nature of a devotee, that he doesn't think he's a devotee. And he always thinks, I need to hear. And he always presents himself as ignorant. This is that's the first qualification when one approaches or has the association of a spiritual master or of an advanced devotee that can instruct one. So one presents oneself as a fool. I'm a fool. One should be a fool in front of one's spiritual master. I'm ignorant. Kindly enlighten me. I really need it. I'm desperate. I need to be enlightened. And so Vidura is like that here. It's just simply the natural mood of the devotee that I don't know, and therefore please instruct me. And naturally, this brings out the kindness of the spiritual master, of the more knowledgeable person, who's already very kind, who's already, as Vidura says here, he's already instructing. Someone who is a real teacher, spiritual master, is always instructing, even though he's not been asked for it, but he's just giving out instructions all the time. And then those who are fortunate will take advantage and take shelter of such a spiritual master. And of course, many will not accept instructions. That is the condition of the conditioned souls. That we puffed up and we think that I don't need, nobody should instruct me. Who do you think you are, anyway? Trying to, do you think you know better than me? That is a conditioned soul. That is a demoniac mentality. It's we see that was exhibited in Hiranyakashipu. Prahlad Maharaj gave him some very good instructions. He told him that you don't have enemies. The only enemies you have is your uncontrolled mind and senses. Someone who is in control of the senses and mind. For him, there are no enemies. You talk about your enemies, but it's just imagination. So in one sense, he's giving him very good instruction. You instead of focusing on your so-called enemies, focus on controlling your mind and senses. I mean, it's a brilliant instruction. So, but Hiranyakashipu's reaction to that, who do you think you are? Do you think you're better in controlling your mind and senses than me? That's what he's... He says, this is over-intelligent, and therefore you deserve to die. I mean, it is, of course, his whole way of acting is hilarious. I mean, he's demonstrated he has no control of his mind. He's completely overwhelmed by anger and furious like that. So he's his very action is proving Prahlad's point. You're not in control of your mind and your anger, and you're so disturbed by that. Why? But of course, Hiranyakasipu is not intelligent to see that. Demonic persons are not able to see that. That actually they are completely slaves of their mind, their senses, and the anger, and the lust, and the greed, and so on. They're completely, they're not free. And so we also have this demoniac nature when we think that, so who does he think he is? At least he's trying to instruct me. But those who are intelligent, they're humble. That is the first qualification, actually, of knowledge, isn't it? Mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, amani tvam adambitvam, humility and freedom from pride. That is, and one cannot get knowledge without that. As when you come as students, and we are always students, then and we have to have this humility. I don't know, and I really need, I could really need some knowledge from you. Then one can learn, and of that, what is it? Is it 26 qualities of knowledge given in the Bhagavad Gita, 13th chapter? So that's the first qualification: humility. Next is freedom from pride. So that is the disciple's qualification: humility and eagerness to know. He's eager to know, and also he understands, I don't know, but he's very eager. You can also be ignorant and don't care. I think many of us are also like that. Yeah, I don't know, and I'd rather sleep and eat. And that's also one way of. That's also, but I guess is that humility in the mode of ignorance, or I don't know. In one sense, one is humble, but also doesn't care. No, he's very eager. I would like to know, but I don't know, and therefore, that's a qualification of the disciple. Then we have qualification of the spiritual master. First of all, he has to be qualified. He has to be very learned. He's very kind. He's really has a big heart for everyone. But also he has knowledge. He's not, one cannot only be well-meaning, have a good intention, but not have knowledge. I guess also some of us are like that. False philanthropes. I love everyone. I want to be kind to everyone. But do you have some substance? Can you give something? The spiritual master has to have both. He has to be very, very, very kind, really want to help others, and he has to actually be able to do it also. He has to have the knowledge and realization and example and practice. All of it has to be found in the spiritual master. And his kindness then is manifested, that he's instructing always. Prabhupada was always like that. Prabhupada was just, instructing, but all the time. When was Prabhupada not instructing? Well, he was not when he was together with his god brothers and so-called seniors, although obviously nobody was senior to Prabhupada in advancement of devotion, but Prabhupada had also god brothers like that. Then he was very humble, and they were speaking on an equal level, and which is also, in one sense, still instructing, but that is so. But when he was around disciples and around anyone ignorant, and and everyone in this world is ignorant, Prabhupada was always instructing them. When there was, sometimes Prabhupada was interviewed by journalists in the airports and in press conferences and like that, and then the journalists they would ask formal questions, as on behalf of the big audience they're writing on behalf, not on themselves, but they're just asking, on behalf of the audience that they are writing for. But Prabhupada didn't reply to that. He replied to him, "You should be Krishna conscious. What are you waiting? You have to use your human life for what it is meant for." And he didn't buy this, that they were exempt from being, and he was giving them, and it is interesting. Some of the funniest and most instructive conversation Prabhupada has is in his interviews with a journalist, and how he's very, very sharp, cutting, and gets to the point, instructs them. And also one interesting thing is that Prabhupada very often seemingly doesn't answer the questions they're asking. He says something else. He says because he speaks what they need to know. They need to know something. Prabhupada knows what they need to know. They don't know what they need to know, so they're asking some irrelevant questions or foolish questions like that. And Prabhupada, he simply, and you might sometimes you get I think someone can get the idea that Prabhupada is a little senile, demented. I mean, he's old, so old people sometimes they say they're little. And Prabhupada was also playing on that. He was seen as, and so with old people you're quite tolerant and forgiving. So Prabhupada, he took some liberties from being seen as an old man. But Prabhupada did not, when he was speaking, seemingly answer. There was a question, then he would answer something completely different. He was saying what they needed to hear, and answering the question that they should have asked. They didn't ask it, but he's answered that question that they should have asked. And there's so many examples of that. There's one time one journalist asked 3-4 times the same question, and Prabhupada, he answers something else. And in the end, then Prabhupada, he answers that question. This conversation where, when did you first realize God? The journalist, he asked Prabhupada, when did you first realize God? And then Prabhupada says, you can also realize God. You can always realize. You can also realize God. It's available for everyone. You simply have to, you practice, and you can all. I think that's the first thing he says. You can also realize God. And then the journalist says, "Yeah, thank you very much, Swamiji, for your answer. But that was not my question. When did you first realize God?" And I don't remember what's the next. But like 3 times, Prabhupada, he instructs him, gives different. It seemingly seems to avoid the question like that. Then in the end, he again asked this: when did you first realize God? Oh, when I was about 4 years old. And Jai Śrīla Prabhupāda, devotees there, says like that, Jai Śrīla Prabhupāda. But that was Prabhupāda's kindness. He was always instructing. He had so much knowledge, so much to give, and everyone around him really needed to be instructed. And they knew that. I mean, of course, his devotees knew they need to be instructed. And Prabhupada was always by his words and his example and whatever, there's always teaching. And so that is that is the spiritual master's qualification. He has to be knowledgeable. He has to be realized. He has to be eager to instruct for the benefits. It's a parent. He has the mood of a parent, and the child needs to be instructed. He needs to be protected. He needs to be instructed and taught and educated, even though the child doesn't know that or doesn't care. Many children, they don't care about it. They just want to have fun and play. Why should we? But the parents, they're the ones who are kind to the child, in spite the child's indifference and unwillingness. They're insisting on, you should learn, you should teach. And of course, some children also are eager to learn. They have many questions and like that. That's very good when the children, they have questions. That means they want to learn. But some children are not. They're more dull or they're more frivolous. But still, parents, they will teach them and arrange situation where they have been taught and are developing and so on, and insist that you must go to school and you must learn, and even taking fights with the children. Again, Prabhupada, he had a conflict with his parents. He didn't want to go to school. You know that? Prabhupada was 6 years old or something like that. Then, of course, he had to start to go to school. And then when his father said, "Okay, now we go to school today," and Prabhupada said, "No, I don't want to go. I'll go tomorrow," Prabhupada said. And his father said, okay, yeah. But then his mother heard that. And his mother was heavy. Father was very kind and lenient with Prabhupada. His mother was very strict. Said, "No, you have to go to school." And she got hold of him. She hired one man who I don't know if he even tied a rope to him and pulled him to school, something like. I think she hired one man to simply, even if he didn't pull him, drag him, push him, kick him to school. You go to school. So then Prabhupada had to go to school. But then he started liking it after that. But yeah. So his father was also very kind to him, but their mood was different. His mother was very strict with him and not giving him his way all the time and like that. His father was more spoiling him. And but that's how the true genuine spiritual master, he simply wants to teach. He wants to benefit, and he's not out to get anything from others. That's another thing that is very important. He's not eager to get anything from others. He's not. He doesn't need it. He's completely, Yeah, I mean, what does he need anything from anyone? That's actually one can only teach from that position properly. He has to be self-satisfied, and also both in terms of being satisfied, and also even his needs. It's not that he has to teach someone because he needs money and he needs otherwise he'll not get food or something like that, or he wants to have prestige or anything like that. He has to be completely independent of that. And that's why, true teachers, brahmanas, in principle, they're not being paid. They simply instruct without being paid. But then they'll receive charity and so on. But even if they don't receive, they are meant to be completely independent. Their material needs does not depend on them receiving charity or payment from their students, and because otherwise their teaching will be adulterated with impure motives. They are trying to, and it will be some kind of exploitation will take place, and then it becomes a very strange relationship. So a teacher simply has to be instruct because others, they need to be instructed, and for himself, he's completely self-satisfied. But his happiness is to instruct others, and his happiness is to see others advance, and the greatest happiness that a true teacher will experience is that he sees students become more knowledgeable than himself. Because that's also sometimes a danger that, yes, I'm instructing, but only to a certain limit. I don't want to see you become more advanced than me. But a true teacher is not like that. If by his instruction and so on, and he has a student that becomes much more advanced than him and much more knowledgeable and greater devotee, he's happy. That's all. He's just happy. He doesn't want it. So, so these are some of the thoughts here we can see from this. Of course, the point is we do need to be taught. We do need to have a spiritual master. This is how we advance. This is the way we advance. It is crucial. We'll not, without spiritual master or spiritual masters, we will not advance. We will not become knowledgeable. We will not be able to surrender. We will not go back home, back to Godhead. It is the whole. I mean, our devotional life simply is turning around this, relationship to the spiritual master. And it's not a formality. That's it's, and it's a tendency it can become like a formality. That is found in in Indian families that have their Kula guru, the family guru, who simply they're initiating everyone like that. But it's just a formality. It doesn't mean anything. So that kind of formalities doesn't mean anything. And we also have this similar here. Also, it's always amongst us. Also, we also can have this tendency to simply have, as a formality, I can claim I have a spiritual master, now I have a spiritual name, and so on. But I'm not taking instruction, I'm not being taught, I'm not... and also, in one sense, we have I've also sometimes expressed that. It is a little difficult in the modern present ISKCON because we have Prabhupada writes very simple in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that is the very beginning, that the spiritual one is instructed by different instructing gurus. That is normal when one comes and one is being taught. And those who are teaching, they are one's gurus, they want spiritual masters. And then it says the most prominent, and then one takes initiation from the most prominent amongst those who are instructing one. And simple and straightforward. But we have a present situation where initiation has become something very exclusive, and very few can initiate. So then one has to start, when one can initiate, then has to look for someone out there who has the authorization to initiate, that one doesn't have a relationship with, has never taught one. And so that's a little, so that makes things a little complicated. And often it's also seen then one, selects someone to be one spiritual master. One will not have a very close relationship to him because one doesn't have it. And then one slackens one's relationship to those that are instructing one, So it has the opposite effect. The real idea of initiation is it strengthens an already existing relationship. That is what initiation is meant to formalize it, and to for the disciple to really dedicate oneself to that spiritual master, and for the spiritual master also for his part, he is informal, and now he really feels, okay, it is my responsibility. I have to take care of that disciple. It's because otherwise it's when instructing spiritual masters, they're instructing anyone, but they don't ultimately really have responsibility. But initiating spiritual master is supposed to have responsibility that student is, or that disciple is being trained and educated. And if it is not, then the initiating spiritual master can be blamed. Just like if you have, Tapas gave us the example that we have there's a father, and then there are uncles. They're on the same level. They're not different in one sense. They're all, they're senior, they're experienced, they can give relevant instructions. Sometimes there might be even an uncle who is even, better to instruct than the father. So that's one. In that sense, they're equal. But then again, there is a difference. If the son, the child, is not properly educated, then you go and get hold of the father. Why didn't you educate your son properly? You don't go to the uncles. Why is that boy? But that's not our responsibility. So that's also the difference between initiating spiritual master and instructing spiritual master. But the present situation is a little confused about it in there. And I think I've expressed that sometimes. Still, doesn't change the principle. One has to be instructed, and one has to dedicate oneself to, taking instruction, following instruction, living for the satisfaction of one's spiritual master. That's really the key to advancing in Krishna consciousness, to live for the satisfaction of one's spiritual master. That what one does, well, that's what makes him happy. And of course, what makes him happy is that oneself becomes Krishna conscious, and is very happy when one is engaging in the mission. And his mission, which is the mission of the parampara, the mission of Prabhupada, to spread Krishna consciousness to whoever one sees, and expand the Krishna consciousness movement. Okay, I'm just talking. Any questions? Yeah.
What should we do?
No.
What do you think would be the solution to this in this country that we have too few initiated?
Oh, that has to come from above. And it's been worked. There are those who are working on it, and there's different. So, solution is, in one sense, some patience. Have some faith. Krishna will solve it. Of course, one can speak up, and when one has a chance to that, or make requests and like that. There are leaders who are working on it, and then some are resisting change and like that. Exactly what comes out of it, that's, yeah.
Was it also a problem in Śrīla Prabhupāda's time, and if no, why not?
No, at that time, Prabhupada was all pervading. It was, everyone took initiation from Prabhupada because Prabhupada was present everywhere. And Prabhupada because also everyone was a disciple of Prabhupada. So if I took initiation from Prabhupada, and even though I did not have direct association with him, most devotees didn't have direct association with him. But then, his other other disciples, old disciples were there. So one was taking instruction from them, and one was reading Prabhupada's books. And Prabhupada was all pervading, which is a standard way actually. Of course, it is Prabhupada's unique potency. He was extremely potent to be present everywhere. There was such a Prabhupada consciousness during Prabhupada's time, and in the years after, when I joined also, there was such a Prabhupada consciousness. And we knew that everyone who was there, our spiritual masters and seniors, they were just, Prabhupada was working through them. We could really feel it and experience. And they always say, Prabhupada said this and Prabhupada said that. And they were most of all lectures would, Prabhupada said this, Prabhupada said that. And it is, and that's also a normal thing, how one spiritual master can have 60,000 disciples. That he cannot directly instruct personally 60,000 disciples, but he has trained, maybe 50 disciples. They're very advanced, experienced, and they take care of the next batch, generation, and that generation takes care of the next, who take care of the next. You have a whole, you can say, pyramid with a guru on top, and and those under him instruct those who are under him, and it's all connected. That's I think that's said how Vashishta, he's running his, he has a lot of disciples, Vashishta Muni, for example. But many of these, Durvasa Muni, how many disciples does he have? And that's, so that's, it can work like that, but it's, and when I joined, it worked also. Aside from Prabhupada, we had the zonal acharya situation and system, which everyone hears about as a, as a horrible time and all the, but actually it wasn't. It worked quite well, except for the gurus. It didn't work for them. They couldn't handle it. They were dragged down. They were not ready for being in such an influential position. But actually, for us, just lay devotees, new devotees like that, it worked quite well. And many say, like, I talked with Bhakti Vigyan Swami about that, because him and I, we from the same year and from the same time, and we knew each other. Not so well, but we knew we were there. And so when he said, I asked him about how was that time, he said that was the best time. We never had such a good time as back then. We were really, protected and instructed, and for us there was no. We could simply focus on devotional service and studying and reading, and we had no problems. But those who were in the position of gurus prematurely, which, and it wasn't that their fault either. It's just Prabhupada left very early from the point of when he started, and he just was here a few years. It could only happen like that. But they for the most part couldn't handle it. So that was But now we don't have that situation. It is more. There's no one advanced devotee who has very big influence everywhere or like that. We have many advanced devotees in our movement, many qualified devotees. Just like there's no lack of advanced devotees and qualified devotees, and all the gurus we have, they are. They're more than qualified. That's not the problem. But they are, it is a natural development that it is. It becomes. It becomes like that. It is that there are many. there will not come a time. Sometimes many think the solution to the present is that we just have to have a new Prabhupada or something like that. The new Acharya, self-effulgent Acharya. No, that will never happen. We are simply in a different state of development. The first development is that you have the Acharya, the very powerful devotee who establishes everything, and everyone follows him. Later on, what will take his place is the institution and the rules of the institution and all that, which seemingly is a more impersonal thing. And the personal relationship will be local. That's at least that's as I see it, and that is, and therefore our policy and so has to be adjusted to that. Does it make sense? Or yeah. So, and it's to be expected that this period. You have the sociologists of religion or religious organizations. They use the term the charismatic period and the post-charismatic period. You've heard those expressions. So the charismatic period is the first stage when you have a charismatic character, like Prabhupada was very charismatic, but you see all the different religious movements and so on. They started by one person who was very charismatic, who attracts a lot of people, and by his teaching and example and so on. But he's there only temporary. At one point he's not there. So after him, that's called the post-charismatic period, and that's a different period. There's not any longer that one person that everyone will automatically center around and follow and agree, and whenever he says something, his word is law. That person is simply not there anymore. So in his place, there has to be a system of governing and institution, and there will have to be rules and laws and so on that everyone has to follow, which everyone will not do. So that post-charismatic state is, especially when you try to establish it, and then after a few centuries, the whole thing is established, and then that system works. But when you're trying to establish it, that is a chaotic period with many, often different disagreements and factions and arising and no one to resolve these disagreements because that person is not there anymore. So for that, from that perspective, also we shouldn't be alarmed by it. It's not ISKCON is special in that sense. They all go. ISKCON is special because it has, pure knowledge, and and all the others are bogus, not bogus, but whatever they are. But the state, you can, if you study, it's actually from when a religious movement evolves and becomes a religious institution. There's a very standard pattern that they all go through. We go through the same. So we should not be alarmed by that. It is, but it's a difficult period, and one should be, that we shouldn't be alarmed. Doesn't mean that we should not be, we really have to act correctly, not to destroy everything or like that. But it's a normal period. It's not that because there's some really special, something especially wrong with ISKCON, anything like that. No, it's not. It's just normal. Okay, guess we have to stop here. thank you very much for your giving me opportunity to speak on the Bhagavatam. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki. Śrīla Prabhupāda ki. Go, Premanande.